Don Cash was a man with a clear and powerful goal. He loved the raw challenge of climbing mountains. His ultimate ambition was to stand on the highest point of every continent. This incredible feat is known in the climbing world as the Seven Summits. It is a testament to endurance, skill, an unwavering spirit of adventure. Before he set his sights on the Himalayas, he had already conquered many of the world's great peaks. Mount Everest, the colossal giant of Asia, was one of the final crowning jewels on his list. Completing this journey was more than a hobby. It was the culmination of a lifelong dream. That dream had taken shape over decades of planning, training. The journey to the summit of Everest begins long before a climber sets foot on the mountain itself. For Don, it started with a flight to Nepal, a country defined by the towering peaks of the Himalayas. Upon his arrival, he joined a 15-person expedition party, a mix of international climbers, all sharing the same ambitious goal. Led by Chinese guide Yuan Li, supported by experienced Sherpas. These local guides are the backbone of Everest expeditions, knowing the terrain and the physiological effects of high altitude. Success would depend on collective strength and teamwork. From bustling Kathmandu, the team began the slow, methodical acclimatization process, moving from lower camps to progressively higher camps, allowing bodies to adjust to thinning air. This phase is critical. Pushed too high too fast. Severe, often fatal altitude sickness. During this period, Don stayed in close contact with family. He made calls to his wife and to his children from base camp, his voice joyful and anticipatory. Success on Mount Everest often hinges on one crucial factor: the weather. High-altitude climbers patiently wait at base camp for a weather window, a brief period of calm winds and clear skies that makes a summit attempt possible. In the spring climbing season of that year, more than 200 climbing permits had been issued. Many expeditions were all waiting for the same thing. This created a massive number of people on the mountain, all vying for the same limited time frame. The concentration of climbers became a major contributing factor to danger. The mountain became unusually busy. When the weather window opened in late May, huge numbers began their final ascents. Unprecedented traffic jams formed on narrow, treacherous ridges. On the day Don and his team made their push, they, along with hundreds of others, were forced to wait in long lines on some of the steepest and most exposed sections of the route. These delays are not merely an inconvenience at extreme altitude. Every minute spent waiting is a minute that depletes a climber's finite supply of bottled oxygen, saps their physical energy, and increases their exposure to the brutal, freezing cold. Don's team was comprised of climbers with varying levels of experience, all under the guidance of their expedition leader. They had trained together and acclimatized as a group, building a sense of camaraderie. Despite being well-equipped and supported by skilled Sherpas who fixed ropes and carried supplies, the sheer number of people introduced an unpredictable variable. The pace was dictated by the slowest person ahead, creating a hazardous bottleneck. Waiting for hours in the death zone, above 8,000 meters, is incredibly risky. The body is effectively dying with every passing moment. Carefully laid oxygen plans can be thrown into chaos by unexpected cues as mental stress grows while precious time and resources tick away. The final push to the summit of Everest is the most demanding part of the entire expedition. It typically begins late at night from the highest camp, Camp 4. Climbers ascend through the darkness, their path illuminated only by the narrow beam of their headlamps. The goal is to reach the summit in the morning and allow enough daylight for the long and treacherous descent. For Don and his team, this final ascent was a grueling climb that lasted for many hours. They moved slowly, deliberately, each step an enormous effort in the oxygen-starved air. The cold is relentless, with temperatures dropping to dangerously low levels. The upper reaches of Everest are known as the death zone for a reason. At this altitude, above 26,000 feet, the human body is in a state of constant decay. Without a continuous supply of bottled oxygen, a climber's cognitive function and physical coordination rapidly deteriorate. Even with supplemental oxygen, the environment is incredibly hostile. The climbers move through a surreal landscape of ice and rock, their bodies pushed to the absolute brink of their physical and mental endurance. The final sections of the climb are the most technically difficult and the most perilous, requiring intense focus when climbers are at their most exhausted. As they neared the top, Don and his team had to navigate the infamous Hillary Step, a nearly vertical rock face located just below the summit. In recent years, this section has become a notorious bottleneck. Climbers must ascend one by one, often leading to long, dangerous waits. It was here, at this critical juncture so close to his goal, that Don's body began to falter. At that extreme altitude, just below the summit, something went terribly wrong. As Don was navigating the final obstacles, he suddenly collapsed. Eyewitnesses on the crowded ridge reported he lost consciousness and fell to the snow-covered ground. In that thin, unforgiving air, any medical emergency becomes a life-threatening crisis. His team, the Sherpas with him, reacted immediately. They knew his best chance was to get him lower quickly, but moving an incapacitated climber on such steep terrain is incredibly difficult and risky. Guides and Sherpas worked desperately to help him. They administered emergency oxygen, trying to revive him. Reports say their efforts seemed to work briefly. Don was brought back to consciousness. In that fleeting moment of recovery, he took the final steps to the summit. He stood, briefly, on the very top of the world, achieving the goal he dreamed of for 4 decades. He had reached the peak of Mount Everest, but the triumph was tragically short-lived. Soon after the summit, he collapsed again and passed away. The immediate aftermath was chaotic and heartbreaking. The team's priority shifted from celebration to survival. The official cause has not been publicly released, but his family believes he suffered a sudden cardiac event. Given the immense strain high-altitude climbing places on the heart, this is plausible, and the team on the mountain suspected the same. The details of Don's final moments come from the fragmented accounts of those who were with him on that crowded summit ridge. Fellow climbers described a scene of confusion and urgent action. Sherpas described a scene of confusion and urgent action. They spoke of his sudden collapse and the immediate efforts to provide aid. The fact that he was briefly revived and managed to reach the summit. These first-hand reports confirm that he did, in fact, achieve his lifelong goal. He stood on the highest point on Earth, even if only for a moment, before succumbing to the extreme conditions. This detail, while heartbreaking, has provided a small measure of solace to his grieving family. In the days following his death, his family shared some of the last messages they received from him. These communications offer a powerful insight into his mindset and his deep love for his family and his deep love for his adventure. In one of his final messages to his son, sent from the mountain, he wrote, "I feel so blessed to be on the mountain that I read about for the last 40 years. These words reveal the profound, almost spiritual connection he felt with Everest. His daughter also shared a final touching message she received from her father. He told her, "Thank you for supporting me in my dreams." He was keenly aware that his ambitious pursuits required the understanding and the support of his loved ones. He wanted them to know how much their encouragement meant to him. The story of Don Cash's final climb shines a light on the harsh and often unspoken realities of Mount Everest. While we often hear tales of triumph and conquest, the mountain has a darker side. One of the most difficult truths for grieving families to face is the fact that their loved ones often cannot be brought home. The death zone is a place where the normal rules of rescue and recovery do not apply. The extreme risks involved in retrieving a body mean that most who perish at high altitudes are left where they fall, becoming permanent fixtures on the mountain's desolate slopes. This grim reality is accepted risk for mountaineers, but a source of profound, lasting pain for those left behind. Furthermore, the experience on Everest has changed dramatically over the decades. What was once a solitary pursuit for elite mountaineers has become a commercialized industry. Hundreds of climbers, many with limited experience, are guided to the summit each year. The pressure to succeed is immense. The route is littered with empty oxygen bottles, discarded gear, and, tragically, bodies. This has led some to question the ethics and sustainability of modern Everest climbing. Don's story is not just about one man's dream. It reflects a broader system fraught with complex issues: the commercialization of adventure, the meaning of risk, and the respect we owe to these sacred and powerful natural places. Two of the greatest dangers on Mount Everest are intricately linked: the thin air and the crowds. The primary danger is, and always will be, the altitude itself. At elevations above 8,000 meters, the partial pressure of oxygen is so low that the human body cannot survive for long. This lack of oxygen, known as hypoxia, has devastating effects. It can lead to life-threatening conditions like high-altitude cerebral edema, where the brain swells, and high-altitude pulmonary edema, where the lungs fill with fluid. Judgment becomes impaired, coordination fails, and the heart is put under immense strain. This year, this inherent danger was massively amplified by the unprecedented number of climbers forced into the same few summit days. Long queues forced climbers to stand still for hours in the death zone. Every minute waiting burns limited oxygen, increases frostbite and hypothermia risk, and drains energy needed for descent. Delays cascade. A climber running low may be too weak to descend safely. The entire schedule shifts, sometimes into worsening afternoon weather or night. Don Cash was experienced and prepared. He knew the risks of altitude. However, the extreme crowding was largely outside his control. While his death was attributed to a cardiac event, the prolonged exposure and exertion caused by delays likely added immense strain. In the quiet reflection that follows such a profound loss, we are left to contemplate the complex nature of human dreams. Don Cash's story embodies the powerful drive to push boundaries, to reach for the highest places, to test the limits of one's own endurance. His life was a testament to the idea that, with passion and determination, extraordinary goals are within reach. He wanted to inspire others, especially his own children. His pursuit of the 7 summits was an act of courage, a physical journey, a spiritual journey. At the same time, his story is a solemn reminder of the inherent risks. The world's highest mountains are places of sublime beauty, yet places of impartial, overwhelming power. A climb like Everest balances human aspiration, the unforgiving laws of physiology, and the unforgiving laws of physics. Don knew and accepted these risks. For his family, the pain is tempered by his words and actions. They remember a husband and father who died in the process of realizing a 40-year-old dream, in a place he loved. Ultimately, we remember Don Cash not for how he died, but for how he lived. He dared to dream big, and had the courage to chase that dream to the highest point on Earth. His story will continue to resonate, a quiet, dignified presence on the mountain he loved.